Well. Tuskegee Institute of EBT Education and Tuskegee University, which I actually hold a great esteem because it's one of the OG black colleges, has put out this. Now, when I walk around and say, yo, stop wearing durags and bonnets all the time, you say, I hate being black. What do you say to the Tuskegee?
We about to fact check this. What the hell are you talking about? First, what Tuskegee University is doing is not only anti-black, it doesn't make any sense. First, bonnets were created as protective headwear to protect black people's hair. Bonnets are widely used in the black community not only to cover bad hair days, but to also cover certain hairstyles. Not to mention, there's not enough evidence to prove that what you wear will affect your performance. In fact, one study shows that uniform did little to help students improve their grade. But a 2005 study shows that students that wore clothes for comfortability rather than social status actually performed better. Instead of Tuskegee University policing of what people are wearing, they should be focused on fostering a comfortable learning environment for their students.
What's up, family? So today we're breaking down this story out of Tuskegee University that got the internet in a frenzy. As you can see, the school president, Dr. Mark Brown, sent out a letter to parents before the fall semester talking about a new dress code. And in that letter, he said no more do-rags, no more bonnets, no more bedroom shoes in the classroom or the cafeteria. He also said students need to come to campus with a business suit and proper shoes appropriate for a business meeting. Now, you would have thought the man said you can't be black anymore, and the comments are on fire. The hot takes are everywhere. People are calling him a sellout, an Uncle Tom, a quote-unquote white man's puppet. I don't know. But here's the thing. I want you to really hear me on this. This is a black college president at one of the most historic HBCUs in this country telling young black students that how you present yourself matters. And the response from certain corners of the internet is to tear him down instead of actually listening to what he's saying. So let's break this down, look at the different perspectives, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Side one is Washington's vision. Cash down your bucket where you are, master the trade and the professionalism, and beat the existing game from the inside. That's the case for the dress code. And it's personal for me because I went to Tuskegee because my mama sent me there to prepare me to get a job, honey. And yeah, is that selling out for the white way of doing things? Absolutely. But see, I like to eat. I like to pay my bills. I'm a dreamer and an activist, but I'm also a realist. Side two is the boy's vision, and his questions still land. Who decided what professionalism looks like? Was it us or something handed down from rooms we weren't allowed in? This is our university, so why are we still calibrating to somebody else's comfort? Du Bois believed Washington's approach asked too much, too slowly, and trained us to earn acceptance instead of demanding it. Du Bois's way would have had us building our own standards from the jump, walking into every room exactly as we are, and forcing that room to make space for us, instead of shrinking ourselves down to fit through somebody else's door. The modern version of that argument brings data. Instead of working on changing the system, why is the school focused on do-rags? Tuskegee's own 6-year graduation rate sits around 57%. How does banning a bonnet move that number? And that's a fair question. My answer is the dress code didn't come alone. It came with mandatory internships, certifications, and attendance tracking, all aimed at that exact outcome. But that's the tension, right? Wanting the job, because we got bills, and wanting the new system. That is the struggle every black person faces every day, finding liberation from a system we're still forced to live inside of while still wanting to change the system. And I don't think either choice is wrong, and we all try to manage.
All right, y'all. Tuskegee's new president has updated the university manual, and that includes a dress code. President Dr. Mark A. Brown sent out a welcome letter to students outlining the new policy and behavioral standards for the academic school year. Dear Tuskegee University students, we're excited to welcome you to Tuskegee University next month as you are arriving at an extraordinary time in the university's history. Tuskegee has entered its Renaissance era of transformation and renewal, and we are expecting a 32-year new student enrollment high in August. Tuskegee is focused on challenging you academically with resources to ensure graduation while preparing you for the workplace. You're required to find internships in their area of interest, identify certifications to enhance professional skills, and develop a resume. There are more than 30 certifications you can get at Tuskegee at no additional cost. You must also visit the University Career Center in Kinney Hall. It is there where you'll be able to connect with potential employers, internships, and learn more about career opportunities long before your senior year. You cannot wait until you are a senior to focus on your career options. The university has developed a new policy for student attire on campus, classroom attendance, and cell phone use in classrooms. Tuskegee students now have a dress code for public and professional places. The student handbook requires students to arrive on campus with a business suit and proper shoes for a business meeting. Students are prohibited from wearing revealing clothing in class, to the cafeteria, or in official settings like convocation. They're also not able to wear bedroom shoes, bonnets, or durags to class or the cafeteria. Faculty will be empowered to respond to students who are inappropriately dressed based on these guidelines. Faculty will also be able to respond to a different classroom challenge, cell phones. Unless directed by the professor, students are no longer allowed to use their cell phones while in class. They should be turned off to eliminate any distraction from the instructor's lesson. We are attaching the attendance policy to minimize any confusion around attendance. Students are required to go to class. That is the heart of all academic success, and we track attendance. The goal here is not meant to restrict you from enjoying the Tuskegee experience, but to prepare you with a solid foundation for the workforce you will enter once you leave Tuskegee. Employers are less forgiving, and too often presentation may overrule stellar preparation. Tuskegee University continues to prepare the best and brightest for a lifetime of success. With these changes, we want to ensure every student is as prepared as they can be. I look forward to seeing you in August. We reached out to Tuskegee University to have the president or representative on, but they were unavailable. We definitely want to have them on very soon. Now, this, of course, as usual, when you factor in Threads, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook, and everything else, explodes into a social media conversation. Now it's about respectability politics. It's about being anti-black. Conscious Lee said Tuskegee passed a horrible policy. As somebody with a master's in adult higher education, policing how students show up to class will never lead to higher class attendance and does not lead to higher graduation rates. Okay, which means dress for success is a claim based in fallacy. Here's another post from No Sleep No. Dress for success has the same underlying tone as massa coming to be. It just sounds coonish. Like, why are you associating success with looks? Kingpin 202. What about yarmulkes, kufis, and the hijab?
So there you have it. Now let's start with what the president actually said. As you've seen and heard, in his letter, Dr. Brown said the goal here is not meant to restrict you from enjoying the Tuskegee experience, but to prepare you with a solid foundation for the workforce you will enter once you leave Tuskegee. And then he said this line, and I want you to sit with it for a second. Employers are less forgiving, and too often presentation may overrule stellar preparation. Let me say it again. Employers are less forgiving, and too often presentation may overrule stellar preparation. Now pause and think about that. This man is telling these students, look, I know you're smart, I know you're capable, but if you walk into a job interview or a corporate office looking like you just rolled out of bed, the person on the other side of the table is not going to care how good your GPA was. They're going to see someone who doesn't take the opportunity seriously. So even if you're qualified, your presentation doesn't seem to be as if you were to be taken serious. And that's real. That's not a black thing or a white thing. That's a life thing. And this is where the bigger conversation starts to come in. Now, the pushback on this, as you see, has been interesting to watch because people are saying this is respectably politics. People are saying this is black people trying to conform to white culture. And people are saying durags and bonnets are part of black culture, and you're telling us to abandon our culture. Okay, I get the point. I understand how they feel, but let's be real for a second. There's a difference between cultural expression and knowing when and where certain things are appropriate, because there's a time and place for everything. So a durag has a purpose to protect your hair at night. That's why it's called a durag. It's made to be worn while you sleep. A bonnet has a purpose. It's to protect your hairstyle while you rest. That's why it's called a bonnet. And bedroom shoes, well, the name says it. What it says is self-explanatory. So you wear them in the bedroom. So the question becomes, why are you so attached to wearing something designed for a bedroom in a classroom? And that's where the argument falls apart for me. You can be proud of your culture and still understand that the classroom is a professional environment. Those two things are not in conflict with each other. And people want to act like Dr. Brown is asking these students to abandon their identity. He's not. He's asking them to put their best foot forward in a setting that's supposed to prepare them for their future. And that's a loving thing to do. That's a fatherly thing to do. And that's what a leader who actually cares about his students does. So now think about it like this. Imagine you're a hiring manager at a company. You got two candidates for the same position. Both of them have the same degree, same grades, same qualifications. One of them walks in wearing a suit, clean, professional, ready to talk business. The other walks in with a durag on and a bonnet in their bag. Which one are you hiring? Be honest with yourself. You're hiring the first one every single time. And that's not because you're racist. That's because the first person showed you they understand the assignment. And they understand that the workplace has standards. And if you can't meet the basic standard of dressing appropriately for an interview, what else are you going to be casual about on the job? And that's how you look at it. And not only the simple fact that the hiring manager want experience, but they also ask you situational life questions. Hey, when has it been a time where you may have gone through a disagreement? How did you handle it? Type of questions. So when Tuskegee's president says we're going to teach you this now so you don't have to learn it the hard way later, it's really not disrespect, it's preparation, and that's love. That's somebody who knows the world is not going to adjust to you and wants you to be ready for it. Which it seems as though with social media giving you a false ideology or unrealistic approach to life, let alone also with a lot of individuals who seem to have this culture of parents wanting to be more friends than actually parents, which is why it may be hard for individuals to firmly grasp this common sense thing. And here's the thing that gets me. You got people online who are not even Tuskegee students, not even HBCU graduates, not even paying tuition, screaming about how this is an attack on blackness. But you ask them, what are they doing to prepare the next generation for success? And they got nothing. And they just know how to be loud on social media. And this is where the bigger pattern shows up. We have a tendency to celebrate the wrong things. You celebrate the person who fights against the rules instead of the person who understands the rules and uses them to get ahead. And Dr. Brown is not telling these students to be white, quote unquote, as a lot of individuals are saying. He's telling them to be excellent. And excellence requires standards. It also requires discipline. And it requires doing things that might not be comfortable in the moment, but will pay off in the long run. If you can't handle a school telling you not to wear a do-rag to class, how are you going to handle a manager telling you that your work needs improvement? How are you going to handle a client who decides to take their business elsewhere because you didn't show up like you meant it? The real world is not the internet. Also, how are you going to take it if you're in a relationship with somebody or just your relationships in general, when they're basically opening up to you about constructive criticism to improve on your end as a team? Because to be honest, a lot of individuals want to act a certain way in their workplace, different from their relationships. But if you really look at it, it all encapsulates the same thing of teamwork, just in a different way. So on the internet, you can say whatever you want and get validation from strangers, but in the real world, presentation matters, perception matters, how you carry yourself matters. And it's a disservice to young people to pretend like that's not true. Now, from my perspective, this is a story about something bigger than do-rags and bonnets. This is about what we value as a community and what we're willing to fight for. And I think we need to check our priorities, because you got people marching in the streets over wearing a piece of cloth on your head in the classroom, but you don't see the same energy for teaching financial literacy. You don't see the same the energy for improving graduation rates, and you don't see the same energy for creating more individuals that actually get a viable degree and not a basket weaving degree, where they actually can be hired with an actual skill set that's viable to the job market. But a do-rag band, oh, now we got time to be angry. And that's the problem. So we're fighting the wrong battles. You're spending energy on things that don't move the needle while ignoring the things that actually determine whether people succeed or struggle. And I say that with love. I say that as somebody who wants to see all individuals do better. And Tuskegee University is teaching these students a lesson that goes way beyond the classroom. Now, I actually love the idea of going to classroom in college every day with a suit, because I like to dress up, but that's just me. But they're teaching them that the world has standards and you have to decide whether you're going to meet them or make excuses. At the end of the day, this is about accountability. And it's about understanding that nobody owes you anything. Favorite line I like to tell my child. The world is not going to change its expectation just because you feel some type of way about it. And the people who succeed are the ones who figure that out early. So Dr. Mark Brown is trying to give these students a head start. And instead of calling him names, we should be thanking him for having the courage to tell the truth. And that brings me to the takeaway for today. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 17 says, "The one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him," which means asking questions. And that's a powerful verse because it's telling you to slow down when you hear a story, when you see a headline, when you watch a clip. Don't just jump to a conclusion that feels good in the moment and wait until you hear the other side. Wait until you understand the full picture and then make your decision. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's how you move through life without getting played by every narrative that comes across your timeline. And for the people who don't do the Bible thing, here's the life lesson or the wisdom within it. The people who are hardest on you are often the ones who love you the most. The ones who tell you what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear. And the ones who demand more from you because they know you're capable of more. That's what Dr. Brown is doing at Tuskegee. He's being hard on these students because he wants them to succeed. And a lot of people like to resonate with, oh, he wants them to succeed. But when it's actually you being held accountable and actually being demanded more of, then you got a problem. So you can't have that selectiveness either. And if you can't recognize the difference between somebody who's attacking you and somebody who's pushed you to be better, you're going to miss out on a lot of good people who could have helped you grow along the way. So take the lesson, apply it to your life. Stop fighting the people who are trying to build you up and spread the peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate, family. I'll catch you in the next one on that No Family Peace.